All right, we're back for more asks. Let's just dive right in. Hi, what do you think about RJ wearing the sheriff hat? He hasn't been shot, and since there will be no season 2 of The Ones Who Live, I don't think we're going to see that happen. So what's the point of showing him with the hat? If it doesn't fulfill the symbolism, could he be the one to break the cycle of the hat? That's a really interesting question. I hadn't really thought of it that way. I don't know. I mean, I think, first of all, even though we're not getting more The Ones Who Live, I think we will get more story somewhere down the line. It's not like, I don't think they're going to finish out Daryl Dixon and be like, okay, we're done. I think we're going to have more Rick and Michonne's story. We're going to have more Alexandria's story. I think eventually, Daryl and Carol and probably Beth will go back there. I mean, I think there's more story to tell. We don't know what it'll be yet. So we might have more. I hope RJ doesn't get shot. But I don't know. I think a lot of the point of the sheriff hat was symbolic in this scene, especially given what RJ said. He said that he knew Rick was out there, and Rick says, why? And he says, I believed, which is a very, very Beth thing to say. It could have just been part of the template, and as a way to say, other stories are going to end this way too with reunions. But RJ could have, even though it's a little bit backward, it would still work. If RJ represents Beth in this case, and then, I don't know, Rick and Michonne represent Daryl, you see what I mean? And that's why he's wearing the sheriff's hat. And you would think it would be the other way around, that Daryl would say that he believes she was out there, but honestly, I don't know that works for Daryl. He doesn't believe she's out there. And we don't know exactly what state of mind Beth will be in when we find her. What if she was told that Daryl and everybody was dead, but she always believed she would find them again? You know what I mean? Like, that belief is just a very Beth thing to say. And so it could be that's why they put the sheriff's hat on him. They also may have just wanted it in there iconically to remind everybody of Carl, and that's been such a huge iconic prop since the very beginning of the show for Rick and for his storyline. So I think there's a lot of reasons it could be in there. I have no idea where they're going with it, if they're going to have RJ get shot or not. I guess you could argue, though, that even if he does, those wearing the sheriff's hat usually survives it, right? Even though, yes, Carl is dead, but he didn't die from a gunshot. He died from a walker bite. But he survived his shot in both season 2 and season 6. And then, of course, Beth, who the hat was put on, we're assuming survived her shot. So I guess even, I wouldn't wish that for RJ, but if he did, he would probably survive it. So who knows? You could be right. It could be a foreshadow of something to come with RJ. I don't know. But I do kind of like the idea of him breaking the cycle of the hat. Like, that's kind of a cool idea. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what the writers have in store for us. What do you think about Emily and Scott Gimple using the word dead, talking about Beth in interviews? The more I read interviews, the more it seems like she really died, but it also wouldn't make sense with all the clues we have of her survival. Is there other TV shows where the cast and crew said a character really died and still bring back that character? I'm absolutely sure there are. I don't usually like to look at shows outside of the TWD universe just because everybody's going to handle things differently. So one thing that comes to mind is like Supernatural, where the two main characters died like 15 times throughout the course of the show. They died, they went to hell, they came back. And that's just the type of show it was. But you couldn't use that as evidence that Beth is coming back because it's a completely different show and a completely different template, right? So I'm sure that there are TV shows where a character was said to be dead and then came back. But honestly, I don't think we should look any further than The Walking Dead itself. There have been lots of times that characters were reported to be dead, said to, and I know that you're talking more about the writers and the powers that be than the characters in the show. But even so, they very much said that Madison, Kim Dickens' character on Fear, was dead. And she said, "Oh, I enjoyed my time on the show, and I love all the fans, and, I'll carry this with me forever." And they just very much implied that she was dead and was not coming back, and we always knew she was coming back because there was no body. So they've done it before on The Walking Dead, for sure. And I don't know, I wouldn't read too much into this, especially at the beginning of TD and not long, in the first seasons after Coda. We all really, really read into the fact that they were not saying very often that she was dead. They would kind of talk around it. And I do think that was intentional, and I do think that was pretty good evidence. But I think as time goes by, they're saying it because maybe because of us, maybe because of TD. So they're going, okay, we got to start saying she's dead because too many people are listening to that. But they've also just changed their tactics a little bit. I don't think we can count on them to say the exact same thing for 10 years, And maybe them talking, it also could be that now that they're saying some strange things, like that Beth's death was good and it would be fun to bring her back. Maybe they're having to specifically use the word dead because otherwise people would be too suspicious about it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, I think there's a lot of reasons for it, but I don't read too much into the idea of them saying that being evidence that she's not coming back. The fact that they're changing the way they talk about it is actually evidence to me that something is about to change. And that's why they're changing their talking points and the language that they're using. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. And if anything, I see it as a good thing. So I hope that helps. I've been anonymously following your account and reading each and every single theory discussion post you've ever made on the account since Ty's big episode. Aw, thank you. When Beth does come back to us, I really hope you don't leave us like ever. Your theories and Q&As have been my go-to for more than 6 to 7 years at this point, and it's become my routine. Aw, thank you. That's really nice to hear. I really hope you'll stay with us until death do all of us part, because seeing you go will be just as heartbreaking as Beth's fake out death, if not even worse. Oh, that's so sweet. No, I mean, I will be here as long as the show is here, honestly, because I love analyzing the symbolism and seeing where the character arcs go. And of course, I love Beth and Daryl, so I don't know. I guess if they ever killed off Daryl, then I might not be here anymore, but I really don't see that happening pretty much ever, unless it's like the last episode of the last TWD thing they ever do. And even Norman himself has said he's happy to play Daryl into his 80s and 90s if they will allow him to do that. So basically, you're stuck with me for as long as the show is around, but thank you. That just totally made my day. That's so sweet. And yeah, I will be here because I love the show too, and I love being here and doing all of the Q&As and the analysis. All right, next one. Hi there. I've seen you say a few times that you believe we will see Beth or hear of her survival in season 2 of Daryl Dixon. How are you so sure of this? Is there a specific reason why you believe this? I'm hoping she is, but it looks like they are already doing a season 3, so how do we know they won't push it to S3? So I kind of answered this a few days ago. I probably should have gone through and seen if there were any similar ones to answer them together, but it's because, so go back like 2 days, I think it was in the Asks 44, maybe? I don't know. Look in the descriptions and you'll be able to see it. But yeah, I'm not saying that I think we're going to get the full Beth and Daryl romance reunion 8 episodes about just them. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that will not be the case. But I do think that we will find out she's alive in this season. And we might even see her a little bit. And then they'll either get separated again, or, we've always said maybe he'll see her from a great distance. Maybe he'll see her in a photograph and realize she's alive. I mean, there's all kinds of theories and headcanons about how it's going to go down. But I believe that this season lines up with Consumed in the template from season 5. So first we had Daryl on his own, which is when he met the Claimers. And that kind of lines up with season 1 of Daryl Dixon, of him being on his own and meeting other characters. And then we had him and Carol heading off together to Atlanta to look for Beth in Consumed. And now we have him and Carol together, and they're calling it the Book of Carol, and Consumed was about Carol's demons. So I just think it's lining up with the template really well. And right after Consumed, that is when he finally found Beth. And so I just feel like we're definitely on the right track. We're definitely getting there. But we also have, I could see maybe saying, okay, maybe we won't actually see her till season 3. My one reason that I don't think that's going to be the case, at least not entirely, has to do with just the recent hints we've gotten from Emily. I mean, she was at that con saying really, really suspicious things. And there's been all kinds of things like that lately of promotion of her. And she's been really quiet on social media, and she's been in Europe doing stuff. She may be filming there. So, like I said, I'm not saying that we're going to get like a full 8 episodes of Bethyl romance. That would be wonderful, but I don't think we will. But I do think that this is the season where we will at least find out in the show, that Daryl will find out that she is alive, and then him and Carol taking off together at the end of the season will be them going looking for her, just like they did in season 5. But I think at that point, it's not going to be, oh, let's go take a tour around Europe just for the hell of it, and then they just happen to stumble into Beth. No, I don't think that's how it'll be. I think it'll be that they will actually find out she's alive, and just like in season 5, where they had a focused purpose. They were going to follow that car into Atlanta to find Beth. That's like what they were doing. I believe it will be the same thing at the end of season 2. So that is my theory. We will see if it pans out, but that's why I am so certain about it, because I can see the way that it's lining up with the template from season 5, and I just feel like we're right on track. I mean, it's just a matter of time before we see her. I know these tweets are old and circulated a lot on Tumblr back in the days, but I'd like to hear what you think of it. So this is Robert Kirkman. Please wish my friend Rob Train a happy birthday. Also, it was his idea to kill Beth. I was against it. He's a jerk. And then someone says, yeah, well, tell him that was the poorest choice and the writing was shit and lazy. It could have been way better. And he says, trust me, he knows. I actually don't really remember these all that well, but I do know that a lot of people were really pissed off at Kirkman, especially a lot of people who loved Beth. I saw these and I sort of asked my fellow theorists, their thoughts. And in terms of Kirkman, we think it's just Kirkman being Kirkman. I mean, first of all, you have to understand that it really would not have been his idea to kill Beth off. It wasn't his writing. She's not his character. And her arc was not planned by him. It was planned by Gimple. So a lot of people were hating on him, and a lot of the reason they were hating on him was because of stuff he said during The Talking Dead after that episode that just came across as very, very insensitive. And then, of course, he said the thing about how just because Beth died, we didn't miss out on some big romance, which I actually believe was a very cloaked and misleading thing that he was saying. But people took it as him kind of dogging on Bethyl, and Kirkman doesn't have the best bedside manner, okay? I have no idea who he is as a person. It's not like I've ever met him. He comes across as very arrogant and very insensitive, and it may be that way, it may not be. I think he has an ego, but you also have to understand that some people just don't know how to come across on social media, so they come across as complete asses. And he may be a complete ass. I'm not saying he's not. I have no idea. But I do know that sometimes things are said on social media that come across the wrong way. And it's just because people don't understand that it's going to come across that way on social media. So I kind of think that Kirkman got a lot of hate about Beth, and whether that was warranted or not, we really couldn't say. But I think this is him just sort of trying to make light of it, trying to deflect some of the hate he was getting. And it also might be a little bit of a hint. I kind of want to read into it that way, especially with his response to this one where he says, trust me, he knows. It's almost like, I don't know, I almost feel like he's hinting that whoever it is, he's foisting this on his friend, who I looked up this friend, and this friend has nothing to do with The Walking Dead. So it would be different if it would be really obvious, I guess, if he was saying, oh, it was Gimple's idea, blame him. But it's not. He's blaming this friend of his that has nothing to do with The Walking Dead. So it's just kind of this weird, goofy, like, where is he going with that? What is he doing? But it could be sort of a hint that he's trying to tell us that there's a bigger plan. And not that maybe he doesn't mean he knows the writing was bad, but he's trying to say that the writers understand how upset people are and have a plan in place. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to read way too much into it, and this was just Kirkman being strange. I don't know. But just know that Kirkman is Kirkman. He does stuff like this sometimes. And, but again, I don't really see blaming Kirkman or taking much of what he says too literally, because he's the creator of the comics, yes, and he was a big part of the show, and the flagship show, getting it, especially the first few seasons, translating it onto the screen and everything. So he was a big deal, and I believe he always knew what was going on. Like, I believe Gimple definitely looped him in on what was going to be happening with Beth and Daryl and all of that. So I believe he knew, but it also was not his arc, was not his writing, was not his baby, nothing like that. And a lot of people thought that he didn't really like Beth and Daryl that much because they were not his characters, and he wanted the focus to be on his characters. Now, that may be true. Again, that's speculation by our fandom because of some of the things he said. And that may be true, but we don't know that for sure. But we do know that Gimple was told he could not pursue his own storylines until after he got through the comic book stuff. So that's why he set up the story in season 4 and season 5, took Beth away, and he had to get through All Out War, the Commonwealth, all of that before he could go back to those stories. Now, obviously, Beth and Daryl are both his creations, and so is the CRM. So he couldn't even do the whole Rick thing. He took Rick away in order to kind of introduce us to the CRM, but he couldn't go back to Rick until he got through the Whisperers and the Commonwealth in the main show. So it just kind of makes sense that now we're coming back around to it and why it took so long to get back around to it. So yeah, anyway, I guess those are just my ramblings on this, but I don't really have a concrete interpretation of it. It's just Kirkman being kind of strange. I don't know. You guys tell me what your thoughts are. Maybe someone can come up with something a little more insightful than I can, but I don't really know what to make of those, but like I said, I just don't read too much into what Kirkman says because I don't think he's really an authority on pretty much anything. So, all right, let's call it there for today, and I will be back with more tomorrow. Bye.